Welcome to Classroom Conversations, where we dive into the world of education. I'm your host, Miss Jones. I would like to take a moment to encourage our listeners to fill out the Google form located in our podcast document and request a topic or an item that you're interested in. Let's get started today by exploring the vital topic of phonics instruction in first grade. Joining us is Miss Jackie, a dedicated first grade teacher from Walberg Elementary. Miss Jackie, thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to share with your listeners today my heart and love for teaching reading through phonics instruction. First grade is such an exciting year in the world of phonics as students in first grade learn and grow so much in their understanding of how to manipulate sounds and read words, which this leads them to becoming more proficient readers, which is so exciting to watch that develop throughout the course of the year.
That is so important. And before we really dive into this, let's just define phonics for our listeners. Phonics is the method of teaching children to read and spell by focusing on the relationship between letters and sounds that they represent. It also is known as alphabetic principle or the alphabetic code. Now let's just dive into our discussion about phonics, Letterland. Miss Jackie, could you walk us through how you structure your daily phonics instruction in your first grade classroom?
Yeah, sure. So each day our phonics lesson always starts with a warm-up, and then we move into the skill of the week discussion, and that's followed by what we call word reading, spelling, and dictation, which is dictation, that's a big word, but that just means I say maybe a word and the student writes it just to see that they are understanding what we have just discussed. Then we move into fluency, which again is seeing if a student can take that phonics concept and apply it in a text. And then we wrap it up for the day, and then we'll move into some other skills that we have. So we always end each lesson with our tricky words. So we call those tricky words, we call them heart words, because no matter how much we learn about the English language, there's always going to be those few words that we cannot decode just by looking at them. So we always end with those heart words with a little activity.
And I've seen those. Y'all have like little slideshows, and y'all are bringing those up so the kids can visually see those. They have little hearts under some of the letters that maybe don't follow that typical alphabetic coding that we are learning in the classroom. So that is really cool to see those kids make those connections.
Yeah, one of the activities that we do at the beginning of our lesson is phonological and phonemic awareness component. And one of those drills we do, which is fun and visual for the students, is where they can guess the letter. So I'll take a stack of letter flashcards and I'll put them on my forehead where I can't see them. And I'll show it to them, and they'll say the sound, and I guess the letter. And so it's a great way for them to see if they can get me, and they just think it's absolutely a blast. And they're practicing their sounds.
Exactly. I love that.
Which goes into our Heggerty lesson, which is also activating their phonological awareness skills by helping students manipulate those sounds just using their ears.
Yes. And we talked about that in a previous episode with Miss Garahan, and she talked to the parents and listeners out there. So if you didn't listen to that podcast, go to that one. That'll give you some good foundation that will build upon what Miss Jackie's talking to us about today as well.
So for our skill for the focus for the week, we use a combination of materials to help the students for the skill of the week, which we always send out to parents at the beginning of the week to give them a heads up, like, hey, this is the topic we're talking about this week, and they'll see it in their homework throughout the week. But typically we use our Letterland program that our county has given us, and this program will introduce the concept. It has a visual fun character for the students to connect with, and then I will model for them how the rule works. We will practice marking that word up visually so they can see how it works. The sounds, we want them to understand how the sounds and symbols correlate together. So I will model how that looks by marking it up, and they learn those skills as well. So when they're visually looking at a word, they can see, oh, this, we have two little symbols. We call it the smiley face and the line is what the kids call it. And so they put that over the vowels so they can see visually, oh, this sound changes in words. And after that, we move into our time of word reading and building. So we use letter tiles, We'll use letter tiles to build words. We'll use whiteboards, markers, and erasers, or what we call sound boxes.
Okay.
And the sound boxes are wonderful tools to help students see the letters that are letters and sound correspondence as well. Many times students partner up during this component of the lessons. That helps them sharpen each other's skills and encourage each other through collaboration. With the sound boxes, which are exactly what it sounds like, they are long rectangular boxes on a sheet of paper. Usually it's between 2 and 5 boxes. We practice sounding out the word, and the students determine where to write the letter in the box based off of the sounds they hear in the word. This helps connect them back to the phonological awareness component that we did at the beginning of the lesson.
Love that.
They spell the word, and then they visually connect it by putting those sounds in the boxes.
Okay.
They also get that exposure to spelling a word, and then I dictate it to them later to see if they are connecting.
Okay.
After we practice reading and writing our words in different ways, then we move into that fluency component. And fluency is reading quickly and accurately. Students do this in different ways each day. 2 of our favorite ways in first grade are through reading pyramids and or a short passage or paragraph. For the reading pyramids, it's simply a sentence that is broken down. So, for example, the sentence, "I like the dog," would be broken down into 4 lines. The first line is the first word. The second line is the next 2. It would be "I like." The third line would be "I like the." And the fourth line would be the whole sentence, "I like the dog."
Okay.
So they are working on reading fluently and smoothly. The other tool we use for fluency is the passage or short paragraph. And my students enjoy this. This is one of our favorite activities, and it's like a scavenger hunt.
Right.
So the students will go through and highlight the words in the passage first.
Okay.
That's the concept for the week. And they try to see if they can beat me a lot of times. I'll say, "All right, guys, I found 24. And they'll be like, "Oh," they want to see if they can get that many too as well. And then once they have highlighted those words in the passage, they go through and they're with a partner so they can kind of bounce off each other. And then I kind of monitor to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do on task. And then they read those words. That's the next step. So highlight, then read the words. And then finally they will read it with their partner. And a lot of times they'll read it twice, and then we read it together as a class for that third read. And then again, lastly, for our end of our lesson, we always end with our heart words, which again are the words that do not follow those phonetic rules, and we have to know them by heart. So we practice these in fun ways, different fun ways. So we'll scramble them up, and they have to unscramble the words. That's one way we do. Another way is I will do a simple sentence, and I will leave a blank for the heart word. And so we'll usually do 2 to 3 heart words for the week. So I'll write the 3 heart words at the top of the board, and we'll practice saying the heart words. And then they have to figure out the missing heart word in the sentence. And they absolutely love that. It's one of their favorite activities. Then sometimes they will partner up and just practice. I'll set a 2-minute timer, and they'll see how many times they can write it and say it with their partner. And they have to take turns going back and forth. So
I love that you make it engaging, almost like a game for them. And kids love that. What specific strategies do you use to teach letter sound correspondence in Letterland?
So with Letterland, again, it has movement and the Letterland characters to help students to engage in those sounds and letter recognition. We have a Letterland song that has the hand motions to each letter and sound, and we always do a visual, daily visual of each letter and practice corresponding sound as well. As creating the letters, we may use our index finger and middle finger together. It's always very important to keep the 2 fingers, middle and index, together, and they will practice writing them in the air as they say them. Those are just some simple ways that we practice.
And we haven't talked about that in any of our webinars to this or our podcast at this point, but that writing in the air is going to help them translate into writing it paper to pencil.
Yes.
So if parents are wondering, well, why would they do that? But those 2 fingers in the air and kind of drawing it in the air is going to start getting that muscle memory so they can do it paper to pencil. How do you differentiate phonic instruction for students at various levels? Because as we all know, there's students in our classroom who get it right off the bat. Some are bored and wanting us to move on a little quicker. And then you have your kids that might need a little bit extra support. How do you support all those different learners?
So for us, differentiating is what we call meeting students' needs at their level, because every student comes in with different understandings and concepts. So we know each child is uniquely wired differently in their journey of understanding phonics. So there are 2 very important tools that we use to group our students and address these different topics in phonics, because there's so many phonics concepts. We want to make sure that each student is growing. So the two tools that we use in first grade are M-Class and what we call a spelling inventory. So M-Class helps us see what components of reading students have mastered and what areas they need to continue to grow in, such as can they connect letters and sounds in isolation, which is by themselves? Are they able to blend the words with like 3 letters? Are they reading more complex words with those heart words that we talked about earlier? Are they able to take, and it builds on each other. So it would go from the complex words to can they read more fluently those words in a passage, more complex. So we take that information that M-Class gives us, which is a program the state gives us, and we look at that to see, okay, this student understands how to read words in isolation. This student understands how to read just the heart words by themselves, and we'll move them to the next level based on that. So while we do have our whole group phonics instruction time, we do also break out later in our reading block time, and those students will be grouped based on the information that we have gathered, mainly from M-Class, but we'll also use our spelling inventory too as well to give us ideas of, hey, okay, so M-Class gave us this information. Well, let's use the spelling inventory to kind of put those two together, those two pieces together, and the spelling inventory can show us if they're able to spell that word. Then we know, okay, if they can spell that word, they have fully mastered that skill, and we can move on to the areas where there's a breakdown in spelling as well. So we use both of those to work together.
And our M-Class parents or listeners, you may have gotten reports on those. We do them beginning, middle, and year, but between that time period, teachers are progress monitoring or checking in with students, some weekly, some bi-weekly, some monthly, to see if they're continuing to grow in those skills, just so you have that information. So let's talk about the science of reading. We've heard a lot about that across our district, across our state, state of North Carolina for a while now. And for our listeners' benefits, could you explain how you've incorporated the 5 pillars of reading into your literacy instruction?
Yes. So the science of reading, that's such a buzzword right now that we're hearing a lot about.
It is.
And it is based off the model of the 5 pillars of reading. And if you have these 5 pillars of reading, you are going to be a strong, successful reader. And those 5 pillars are phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. And these are all interconnected in our daily lessons. Again, we start with phonemic awareness, which is that base level understanding, and we move from that activity into identifying words and sounds. Phonics instruction flows this way, and we will explicitly teach them letters and sounds relationships, and then we move into practicing fluency and building vocabulary through that fluency. And after they've read and we've talked about the vocabulary, then we discuss that comprehension piece that goes into that. These discussions we practice daily, not only in phonics, but we move that into our reading lessons as well, where we're talking about vocabulary and building their understanding through read-alouds and guided reading sessions. And we're hitting all these components daily to help guide a strong foundation for your child on their reading journey.
Yeah. So I know you've touched on this a little bit, but what methods do you use to assess students' phonological and phonemic awareness skills? Kind of break that down a little bit more for us.
So there's a couple ways we do that. Our whole group, we address the phonological and phonemic awareness skills through Heggerty, which is a whole group program that we use in class every day that goes into that phonics lesson that we do every day. And the Heggerty program addresses phonemic awareness, and we can also look at our whole group phonics lessons through that lens. Through this tool, we see what areas of phonological awareness students have grasped and where we need to differentiate moving forward. In small groups, we use another program called UFly, and this program it builds on addressing small group phonological awareness skills that maybe we're doing at whole group, and I see, okay, these students need extra practice with segmenting a word, or these students need more understanding of rhyming words. I can go and pull my UFly, and for my small group reading instruction that day, my concept may be on rhyming words, and that UFly will have a great lesson I can pull for them. So we use Heggerty, we use UFly, and then the last tool that we use to help build those phonemic and phonological skills is M-Class. And M-Class, again, as it's our state tool that we use to make sure students are growing. And I will give them a prompt to see if they are understanding how to blend, to how to segment words, or to see if they can, how they are moving along that line of moving from less complex to more complex skills.
And there's a balance to this, right?
Yes.
So, how do you balance the explicit phonic instruction with opportunities for authentic reading and writing? Because we know that it's important for students to have access to those moments, but yet you're still trying to grow all these other skills with the different levels.
Yes, and we want them to take these skills that sometimes we're practicing them in isolation, sometimes we're practicing them within text. So our phonics lesson and our Heggerty lesson, those are going to be the times where we're practicing mainly in isolation. There is some application, but then when we have our reading time and our small group time, we're also making sure that they are using them in text.
Okay.
So that way it's being utilized across the board, and it's not just we're practicing rhyming words by themselves. We're practicing words in isolation, sounding them out. You're seeing them in text. You're seeing those high frequency words, heart words as we call them, in text.
Yeah, so lots of opportunities. And for the listeners, we've got a pretty large English language arts block that we work in. So when Miss Jackie is talking about all these different sections, we've got it broken up, and we spend 20 minutes here, 30 minutes there, 40 minutes here. So it does have a nice flow to it. So lastly, what are some tips or strategies parents can use at home to support your efforts in the classroom? Because clearly you've got a lot going on in there that you're balancing, and they're building these skills for students. And though we do it 5 days a week, what can we do just as a quick and easy thing at home on the weekend, or the grocery store, or on the way home in the car, or waiting for the ball game, all the things that we too as parents have to balance as well, right?
Yes. So the biggest one is phonemic awareness, which again is using your ears to listen and hear for sounds. And that's a great place to start with your child. I encourage you to check in with your teacher and see what area they struggle in. But we see phonemic awareness as a huge component where it's a quick, easy thing that you can do with your child. I do it with my own son in the car, and we'll play a game where I may say the sounds in a word. So the word might be stop, but I'm not going to tell him the word is stop. I'm going to say, tell me this word, and I'll say s, t, a, p, and he'll tell me, oh, mommy, that word is stop. Or I'll say, what starts with the letter p, and he can give me words that start with p. Or I will say, cat and dog start with the letter D, and he'll say, no, those don't start with the letter D. So just giving your child really quick prompts while you're in the car is a really, because you have them. You can't make it go anywhere. You have them in the car.
Exactly.
And that's such a great time, I have found personally as a mom, just to kind of go over those skills really quickly, to say, hey, tell me the sounds you hear in this word. Or, hey, bat and cat, do they rhyme? Yes. Or dog and walk, do those words rhyme? No. Or give me 2 words that rhyme. Just different things that you can do. Phonemic awareness is such an easy, quick one. But for reading at home, a lot of times is what we hear about. So reading at home, if you're looking for books for your child to read, check in with your teacher first to see where they're at and what skills. So ask them, say, hey, what phonics skills is my child needing to continue to work on? And then I highly recommend searching for decodable books. And for that concept. So if your child is struggling and needs to extra practice with short A, Google decodable. That's the most important thing. Is decodable books with a short vowel. So short vowel might need to be something. Also your library. Like if you don't want to go on Amazon, your library, check with your library to see what kind of decodable books they may have. Check with your child's teacher. There may be some books that they work on in class. That I know for my students, I will read the text with them, and then a lot of times I will send it with them home. So they get extra practice. And there's nothing wrong with reading a book more than once. Nothing wrong with reading it more than once. It's so important for them because it will build their confidence, number one. Number two, it will help them become more fluent, which is what we want. Maybe the first time they read it, it was really choppy. The second time they read it, we want to see them continuing to get better. So look for decodable books. Talk to your child's teacher. check your library. Those are going to be easy ways to make sure that they are continuing to grow. And then if your child has any homework that they get home, that they have had a reading passage from the week before, keep it.
Yeah.
Have them reread that. It's always a great, simple thing that comes home every week at the end of the week. Just keep it, hang on to it, and they can always read those.
Those are great options. And I'll attach to the underneath this link in our Google document some resources that you can quickly access to get you started with that as well. So, Miss Jackie, thank you so much for your time today and for enlightening our listeners about the importance of basic reading skills and bridging the gap between the classroom and home learning. Until next time, keep growing and exploring.